Hey, what's going on? Bill DeWeese here, pro voiceover talent and voiceover career coach. My sole mission is to help you become a profitable voiceover talent. And today, I'm going to talk about the 4 performance mistakes that many, if not most, voiceover talent make when behind the microphone. We're talking about your product here, the performance side of the equation. And we've got to get that right before you can market effectively. Now, an interesting side note here is that my 4th tip for you, the 4th mistake, is something that you probably have not heard other folks say or will rarely ever hear other coaches talk about, but I think is absolutely essential to understand so that you do things right. All right, so are you ready? Let's do it. The 4 most made mistakes when it comes to voiceover performance. Number 1, actually, we'll say number 4, we'll work our way to number 1. Number 4, focusing on how you sound. And that may be the most prevalent mistake that voiceover talent make. I mean, how could you not? You get behind the microphone. For one thing, the microphone in and of itself tells you, hey, it's showtime. And then if you wear headphones, then you hear yourself. And then, wow, it's really showtime. And by the way, I'm not saying you shouldn't wear headphones. I wear headphones. Do whatever you're most comfortable with. But if you really struggle with not being able to get away from listening to yourself, you may want to try it without the headphones. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is, think of it this way. When you have a conversation with a friend, are you focused on how you sound when you're talking to that person? No, you're not focused on how you sound. You're focused on what you're talking about and how you feel about what you're talking about. If you focus on the sound of your voice, your friend would say, whoa, who are you talking to? What's the problem? What's the matter? Because it wouldn't sound genuine. It wouldn't sound authentic. And so one of the first things that we have to do to get you to a great read, a marketable, a bookable read, is to get you away from listening to the sound of your own voice. All right, that's number 4. Working our way to number 1. Number 3, you're focusing on the words. So think of it this way. You're delivering a message. You're telling a story, but you're focusing a lot on the words. Have you ever wondered or asked somebody, maybe a coach or a fellow voiceover talent, what word should I highlight here? Where should I slow down? Where should I speed up? And I'm not saying you shouldn't be concerned with those things at all, but if the focus of your effort if you're missing the forest and just seeing the trees, then you're missing the big picture, and it will strangle the life out of your read. It will take all believability away because it takes you into this, what I call being technical with your read, which is the number 2 mistake, being overly technical, meaning you're focused not just on the words, but how you say the words, how you articulate the words. Your elocution, your projection. You become a performer instead of a communicator. That's the bottom line. You don't want to be a performer. We may use the word performance, but ultimately what you're doing is you're connecting with people. You're telling stories. You're delivering messages that must have some sort of emotional impact with the end listener. And if you become technical in what you do, you drain all life. You drain all emotion out of the story and out of that message. And that brings me to the number 1 mistake, not number 1 in terms of people make this more than any other mistake, but number 1 in terms of the one that you will probably not hear other people talk about very often, if at all. And that is this, the mistake of focusing on the direction that's given to you. Now that may sound heretical. How could you say it's all about the direction, right? It's all about what the client wants. Yeah, it is about what the client wants, but oftentimes what the client says is not necessarily what they want. They have an idea in their head, but in terms of them communicating it, that doesn't always translate. It's like when people are doing market research, and I learned this in broadcasting many years ago. What people say they will do and what they actually do can be 2 different things. And there are a number of reasons why that may happen. And what ultimately happens when it comes to casting for projects is that the client knows what they like when they hear it. It might be similar to what they had in mind. It might be something completely different. But what's ultimately important is that it is believable. And one of the early mistakes I made in my career is I worked really hard as I received auditions from agents and directly from clients. And, they would give their paragraph on direction, giving me 25 adjectives on what they wanted that often conflicted. They wanted it to be warm, yet authoritative, to be engaging, but not overly emotional. Things that would kind of wrap you up in knots if you were trying to follow all of these bits and pieces of direction. So ultimately, what helped me to begin winning more jobs is when I looked at the direction, just to get an idea. I want to have an idea of what the client's looking for. But ultimately, what's important is what does the script mean to me? How do I see it? How do I interpret it? If I was the bearer of that message, if that's me in the script, how would I communicate that? Because that, my friends, is authenticity. That's being genuine. That's being believable. That resonates with people as true. When you're trying to sound like somebody else and do something else that somebody else would do, and you don't own it yourself, that sounds disingenuous. It sounds fake. It sounds robotic. All of the other adjectives that we heard that we're supposed to stay away from. So again, I'm not saying disregard direction. I'm saying take a look at it, get an idea. But ultimately, it has to be you. Because if it's not you, your chances of winning that audition go down dramatically. So, okay, I've talked about the 4 mistakes that people make. So what should you do? Okay, so if I'm not going to focus on how I sound, what should I focus on? You should focus on how you feel. As you understand the story of the script, what would be if you're the character in that script, what's your point of view? How do you see the world based on this person? How do you feel about what you're talking about, the product or the service, or what? It wouldn't have to be a commercial. It could be anything. How do you feel about it? And can you allow yourself to feel that as you communicate? Because if you do, that connects with people. Well, if I'm not focusing on words and on the technical side of delivery, what am I focusing on? Well, focus on thoughts. Focus on meaning. Don't speak in words, speak in phrases. In other words, don't just look at the tree, look at the forest. What's the big idea of the script? Where are we going with this? And make sure that you understand the thought and that you speak the thought. One of the things that helps me, generally speaking, and it may or may not work for you, you have to find what works for you. But I try to look at what's between punctuation, phrases. Phrases tend to be thoughts. So instead of speaking in the individual words, I look at the phrase and I try to communicate the phrase. It's just a little guideline that helps me along the way. And then finally, if I'm not looking at direction, what am I looking at? Well, you're looking at context. As you look at the script, what's the big picture? What's going on here? What are we trying to accomplish? Where is this scene set? Is that obvious, or do you need to make something up in your mind just so that you need to have a place? You need to be someplace emotionally in that script. Even if you're not sure what it is from seeing the script itself, you need to decide who you are and who you're talking to and where you are within all of this. Or otherwise, you're a disembodied voice with no direction, no sense of purpose. So you need to know where you're at, who you're talking to, who you are. These are things you need to, again, if it's not explicit, you need to make it up yourself and decide. Because if you don't know, the listener will know that you don't know. You will just sound like a voice wandering alone in the wilderness. No context. We all need context. Imagine you having a conversation and we see you talking, but we don't know who you're talking to. We don't know where you are. We don't know where this conversation even came from. It's disconnected from the big picture, and you have to be connected. And it has to be genuine and come from you. And if you do these things, will you win every audition? No, absolutely not. Nobody does. What does it do? It increases your odds of being hired dramatically. And remember, in business and in voiceover business, it is a numbers game. And we want to increase, to use a baseball analogy, your batting percentage. It's better if you're batting 300, that means you're winning 3 out of 10 opportunities, which is a much better batting average than 100. winning 1 out of 10 opportunities? Wouldn't you rather triple your income or quadruple? Or just by doing these things, you will increase your batting average, your success rate when you're auditioning and reaching out to book work. Use these tips, share your thoughts and your experiences. Try this and share those below in the comment section. Let me know how it's going for you and what the difference is when you shift from being highly technical and disconnected to making it yours and understanding context and relating to the story and communicating ideas and thoughts and allowing yourself to feel and communicate those emotions. I'd love to hear from you. And also don't forget, in the description, I've got a list of resources and links to those resources. Again, all for the purpose of helping you to be successful, i.e. profitable in voiceover. Thanks for checking out the video. I wish you great success, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.